Do you think your book helps elicit the raids? To lay the foundation?
I don't know. I don't know. I know that the book came out in 2000. The raids didn't take place till 2008. So if it had anything to do with the raids, the feds really acted very, very slowly. I do know, yeah, right. Well, I guess the federal government is used to acting slowly. I do know that many of the allegations that the feds made against the slaughterhouse were in the book. I mean, there was drug trafficking going on in the slaughterhouse. There was gun trafficking going on in the slaughterhouse. In terms of sexual harassment, it was rampant. Way, way back in the early 90s, I wrote about that. There were women I talked to who told me, if you don't put out for your boss, you will be out of a job. I do know it was the worst kept secret in Iowa after the book came out, that if you wanted a job, you could always get a job in Postville. You know, this whole issue of, oh, gee, you have to have, you know, you have to be documented, that was all garbage. All you need to do is knock on the window of the employment office at agri-processors. In the morning, in the afternoon, you'd be on the kill floor. It was, everyone knew that. Politicians knew that, the locals knew that, the cops knew that, the feds had to know that. But remember, Postville is, you know, not Miami, it's not LA, it's in an isolated pocket of middle America. It's hard to amass the political clout to launch a raid, and also logistically, it's hard to do that. Did the book prompt the raid? I have no way of knowing. I do know that many of the allegations that the feds made in prompting the raid were made in the book.
Could I drop back? This is from that Luke Ford interview also. You said something, you discussed this a bit, but I'd like to revisit it. You said you were blasted by somebody, harsh criticism. You said, I've come to expect such comments which follows a pattern. If you pose certain questions in your reporting about Jewish issues, you're blasted as an anti-Semite. Such retorts are textbook. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's exactly textbook. This happened over and over again with the Lubawitchers. If you are accurate, if you are truthful, if you report what is there, you're labeled an anti-Semite. This is textbook. This is exactly what Rabashkin has said over and over again. Whether the accuser is the EPA, whether the accuser is a judge, whether the accuser is a businessman who wants to get what is owed him, if you say anything against the Lubavitchers, the number one textbook response immediately is, you are an anti-Semite. This is textbook. This happens over and over again. The argument is immediately reduced to, you're an anti-Semite. No, I'm a Jew, I am not an anti-Semite. Trust me, I am not an anti-Semite. I'm trying to get at the truth here. No, you wouldn't raise that unless you're an anti-Semite.
How can a Jew be an anti-Semite? Is this the self?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. It gets very deep, and you know, look, I'm proud to be a Jew. I've always been a Jew. You know, but I'm a whole bunch of things. I'm also a writer. I'm also a journalist. I'm not, you know, being a Jew doesn't trump telling the truth. And that's what I want to try to do.
How can someone call a Jewish individual an anti-Semite? It's a contradiction in terms. I mean, in the self-hating Jew is another version of an anti-Semite? Could you elaborate on that?
I can't elaborate on the mindset of the Hasidim. I don't know.
I went to the Lag BaOmer parade, and I was flabbergasted. I wonder if you could give me some feedback on this. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of strange things about it. But one of the things that was very strange to me was that the lead item in the parade was a huge poster of this guy Rubashkin. And could you elaborate on it? I mean, he just got convicted, what, 3, 4, 5 days ago, 86 counts, and they're walking down there with all their dancing and stuff, and he's in the lead. What's going on?
He has taken on the role of the Messiah. You have no idea what the Lubavitch community has done in terms of trying to raise money for Rubashkin's defense, and trying to raise consciousness that anyone who opposes Rubashkin, of course, is an anti-Semite, is a Jew hater. They've done a whole bunch of things. One thing they've done is they've organized a very effective internet campaign. It almost looks like an Apple versus Microsoft ad. There's a very hip-looking guy who gets on the internet and says, we need your support. We need your dollars. Rubashkin is being railroaded. Send us your dollars. There was a campaign so that every Lubavitcher in the world would pray at exactly the same moment for the freedom of Rubashkin. Rubashkin has taken on martyr status. He is an example of someone who has done nothing wrong. His accusers are all anti-Semites. Textbook.
Could you discuss the 2 Jewish individuals or Chabad individuals who ended up in jail, the shooting? And the thing that interested me was the thing about, there's some Yiddish saying about, if a Jew is in jail, we're going to get him out. I mean, could you discuss all that?
There's a lot to discuss there. There were 2 individuals, Pinchas Liu and Philip Stillman. They went on what goes for a crime spree in northeastern rural Iowa. They got very drunk one Friday afternoon during the Sabbath and robbed a popcorn vendor. And after robbing the popcorn vendor, they were perhaps emboldened, and they drove to a nearby community, Decorah, and they robbed a convenience store. It was a botched robbery. A gun went off. A bullet lodged in the spine of the cashier, and she's still alive, and she's paralyzed and now walks with a tremendous limp. One of the defendants got off totally. The other defendant recently was released from prison. He has quite a checkered past. Ultra-Orthodox Jews believe that when a Jew is in prison, it is mandated by the Bible, as well as by the Talmud, that it is an obligation of one Jew to always raise bail to release that person from incarceration or confinement. That's what's going on with Rubashkin, that ultra-Orthodox Jews are leaning on other Lubavitcher Jews to raise funds for attorneys, for bond, so that Rubashkin can be released. In my mind, this crime that took place way back in the early 1990s in Postville really was a manifestation of the contempt that the Lubavitchers held for the locals. Not for a minute do I believe that two Jewish men would have ever assaulted a Jewish woman. The fact that this woman was a cashier, was Christian, was a goyim, was a goy, was a shiksa in Yiddish terms, was central to their crime. It really underscored a sense of contempt that the Lubavitchers carry with them about anyone who's not Jewish.